It's happened 12 years ago when we lived in Washington. On a rainy Friday night, I was home alone as usual, since my parents were both working the night shift at their office. It wasn't the first time I spent nights like this. Just me, the steady hum of the rain, and the faint glow of my phone screen keeping me company. I was a teen, old enough to manage myself, but that night, something felt different. Around 8 pm, I was busy on my phone. The rain lashed against the windows. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. It startled me because I wasn't expecting anyone, and we didn't usually get a visitors at night. Curious but cautious, I peeked through the peephole. A man stood on the porch, drenched in the rain. He wore a black jacket and jeans, his hood partially covering his face. Something about him didn't sit right with me, but I couldn't just ignore him. I opened the door slightly, keeping the chain latch on. Can I help you? I asked. He smiled faintly, but not so wide. Hi, I think I'm lost. Could you tell me how to get to Maple Street? Maple Street was a few blocks away, but his voice didn't match the casual tone of someone genuinely seeking directions. He seemed tense, his eyes gradually darting past me into the house. Maple Street is 2 blocks over, I said quickly, trying to sound firm. Are you alone here? He asked, his gaze piercing through me. My stomach dropped. No, my dad's in the shower, I lied. You should go before the rain gets worse. He hesitated, glancing over my shoulder again, as if trying to confirm my story. I slammed the door shut and locked it before he could say another word. My heart was racing, but I tried to convince myself it was nothing, just a random stranger. Anyway, I ignored the incident and went back to sleep. The next morning, I didn't mention it to my parents. They already worried about me being alone at night, and I didn't want to make a big deal out of something that might not be a threat. But then, it happened again. The following night around the same time, I doing something which I can't remember. Suddenly, the doorbell rang again. My heart sank. I checked the peephole, and there he was. But this time, he was not alone. There was two other men standing with him. My blood ran cold when I noticed one of them was holding a revolver. I backed away from the door, my hands trembling. The man in the black jacket knocked loudly. Open up, we just want to talk. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, whispering as quietly as I could. There are 3 men outside my house. One of them has a gun. Please send help. The operator assured me that officers were on their way. Meanwhile, knocking turned into pounding. We know you are in there, one of them shouted. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed a knife, my breathing shallow and rapid. Suddenly, I heard the sound of glass shattering. They were trying to break in through the back window. My chest tightened as I heard heavy footsteps in the hallway. I hid behind the kitchen counter, clenching the knife, praying the police would arrive in time. One of them called out, We don't want to hurt you, just come out. I stayed silent, gripping the knife so tightly my knuckles turned white. Suddenly, red and blue lights flashed outside, accompanied by the sound of sirens. The man crashed loudly and bolted out the back door. The police arrived just as the man tried to escape through the backyard. Two were caught immediately, while the third managed to disappear into the darkness. The officers told me I had done the right thing by calling them. They found a backpack outside containing duct tape, zip ties, and more weapons. They also told me that for the past 2 weeks they have been receiving kidnapping cases like this one at night. The realization of what could have happened sent slivers down my spine. The next morning, I finally told my parents everything. They were horrified and decided to install a security system immediately. To this day, I don't know who the man in the black jacket was or why he targeted our house, but sometimes late at night, I think I hear a faint sound of knocking, just like the first time, and every time my heart skips a beat, wondering if he's come back to finish what he started. I work late nights, and by the time I get home, my neighborhood is usually silent and dimly lit. That night was no different. I had just wrapped up a grueling day at the office and was looking forward to collapsing into bed. When I walked through the front door, the house was quiet. A note from my mom on the kitchen counter read, Hey sweetheart, Dad and I went to a party. There's food in the fridge. Love you. After a fresh shower, I grabbed the leftovers, warmed them up, and ate quickly. The exhaustion was weighing me down, so I decided to head straight to my room. On my way upstairs, I instinctively checked all the doors were locked. Before crashing into bed, I called my dad just to check when they'd be back, but the call wouldn't go through, straight to voicemail. Odd, but I figured they were just in a noisy area or had poor reception. I didn't think much of it and set my phone down on the nightstand. I was lying in bed, letting the silence of the house lull me to sleep, when I heard a faint tap coming from the front door. It wasn't loud, almost as if someone was gently knocking. My first thought was that my parents were home and they had forgotten their keys. Dragging myself out of bed, I made my way down the stairs. The tapping continued, steady but soft. I didn't bother checking the peephole. I was too tired to care. I unlocked the door and swung it open, expecting to see my mom or dad, but there was no one there. The porch was empty, the street eerily quiet. A cold breeze blew past me, and I suddenly felt very exposed, shaking it off as some kids playing a prank. I closed the door, locked it again, and went back to bed. I had just started to drift off when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my dad. Running late. We will be back in few hours. Don't open the door for anyone. I am a only daughter of my parents, so they love me very much. They still treat me like a child. Anyway, I'm 28 years old now, and I can save myself from even the worst situation. I replied back okay and went back to sleep to set my phone down on the nightstand. Suddenly, I heard the tapping again. This time it wasn't coming from the front door, it was coming from the window, my bedroom window. I froze, staring at the curtain. The tapping continued, steady and deliberate. Whoever or whatever, it was knew I was inside. I got up from my bed and slowly reached for my phone to dial 911. But before I could dial, the tapping stopped. I stayed motionless, straining to hear any sound. A few moments of silence passed before I heard something that made my blood run cold. The sound of the back door creaking open. I knew I had locked all the doors. I knew it well. Someone entered inside. Footsteps echoed through the house, slow and deliberate, heading toward the stairs. My bedroom door was slightly ajar, and through the gap I could see the faint glow of flashlight sweeping across the hallway. My heart racing, I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a heavy lamp from my nightstand, and positioned myself near the door. The footsteps grew louder, closer, until they stopped right outside my room. When the door creaked open, I swung the lamp with all my strength. It connected with something solid, and there was a grunt of pain as the intruder stumbled backward. I didn't hesitate. I ran past him down the stairs and out of the front door. I kept running until I reached the neighbor's house and banged on the door. They let me in, called the police, and stayed with me until help arrived. After 30 minutes, police was arrived. They searched my house, but they found no sign of forced entry, no flashlight, no evidence that anyone had been there. But as they were leaving, one of them pulled me aside and showed me something. Carved into the wood of my bedroom door were the words, "You shouldn't have opened the door." To this day, I don't know who or what was in my house that night, but I have learned one thing. When you hear a knock at the door, always check before you open it.